Hello, hello everyone. Okay, we already have some people jumping in. Come in everyone. I don't know if you all are able to see me clearly. If you are, we do thank you for joining us tonight. Um hey Nash, what's up? How's everything going? Nina, what up, babe? Titus, what's good? Daniel, hello. Um Natasha, Wendy, what's up? Hey, Juju. Juliet is out in New York, getting her thing going, getting her happiness on, her happy dance on. Um, Geraldi, what's going on, man? So I'm gonna give you guys a little time to jump in. What up, Chuchi? Give you guys a little time to jump in, and then we're gonna hit it right on the nail. Um, Excuse me if you guys hear me sneezing a lot or walking away from the computer. Um, I somehow just got sick out of the blue, and it's not something that I really like. So, um, we're gonna jump in and we're gonna pray, and I feel like God wants us to put an end to something that has been silenced for too long. Nabgadeujialdi, Sakpasiman. God has been calling us to step forward to something that we all have either been a victim to, we know someone who's been a victim to it, and we need to end it. It needs to end. If it doesn't end with them, it has to end with us. So, before we go any further, let's pray. Oh, our dear most precious and Father God, we thank you for the ability to be able to gather on tonight, to be able to minister to one another, to be able to pour into one another. We had a long week, and Father, we've been looking forward to this for the whole week. But God, tonight's topic is none. It's not something that we're not familiar with. It's not something that you're not familiar with. And I believe that you placed this topic on our hearts to touch upon because you are calling it into something that needs to be put to rest. So God, as we attack tonight, we ask that you please allow us to come on agreement that you are God and you are the God that heals, you are the God that gives peace, and you also are the God that forgives. And let it be that when it's all said and done, um, if not all of us, but some of us on this line, on this live, will walk away with knowledge of what we are talking about tonight. Bless us, guide us, bless our leaders. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Um, okay. What's going on, everybody? Um, Tonight's topic is a topic that has been taking the internet the internet by storm. And it started out when the accusations against um, actor, comedian, um, oh Jesus, Bill Cosby. It started out with these accusations, and we in today's society, our culture is facing a new accountability, and each day, um, you know, each day also brings a table of some uh, 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 powerful perpetrator to like some low standards. And what I'd like to start with tonight is we're going to go to the Bible, because I believe everything has a root and it starts somewhere. So if you would grab your Bible and go to 2 Samuel, the book of 2 Samuel, chapter uh, 13. 2 Samuel chapter 13. For those of you who are now joining us, we are talking about hashtag MEtoo, sexual abuse in the church. And I'm going to do my best to try to answer these 4 questions. I want to say 4. Sorry, my hands are very low, and yeah. These 4 questions. What is sexual abuse in sexual harassment? Um, what are the causes of sexual harassment? Um, who who gets hurt the most, or who does it happen to the most? And last but not least, how do we end it? How do we end sexual harassment and sexual abuse? So tonight we're gonna jump into that. So 2 Samuel chapter 13, um, and we're starting at verse 1, and we're gonna jump around. Um, I'm reading from the Message version of the Bible. Sometime later, this happened. Absalom, David's son, had a sister who was very attractive. Her name was Tamar. Amnon, also David's son, was in love with her. Amnon was obsessed with his sister Tamar to the point of making himself sick over her. She was a virgin, so he couldn't see how he could get his hands on her. Amnon had a good friend, Jonadab, the son of David's brother, Shimeah. Jonadab was exceptionally streetwise. He said to Amnon, "Why are you moping around like this, day after day? You, the son of the king. Tell me what's eating you." In a word, Tamar, in a word, Tamar, said Amnon, "My brother Absalom's sister, I'm in love with her." Here's what you do, said Jonadab. Go to bed and pretend you're sick. When your father comes to visit you, say, "Have my sister Tamar come and prepare some supper for me here, where I can watch her and she can feed me." So Amnon took to his bed and acted sick. When the king came to visit, Amnon said, "Would you do me a favor? Have my sister Tamar come and make some nourishing dumplings eh, here where I can watch her and be fed by her." David sent word to Tamar, who was home at the time, "Go to the house of your brother Amnon and prepare a meal for him." So Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house. She took dough, kneaded it, formed it into dumplings, and cooked them while he watched from his bed. But when she took the cooking pot and served him, he would not eat. Amnon said, "Clear everyone out of the house," and they all cleared out. And then he said to Tamar, "Bring the food into the bedroom where we can eat in privacy." She took the nourishing dumplings she had prepared and brought them to her brother Amnon in his bedroom. But when she got ready to feed him, he grabbed her and said, "Come to bed with me, sister." Her response in verse 12, "No, brother," she said, "don't hurt me. This kind of thing isn't done in Israel. Don't do this terrible, terrible thing. Where could I ever show my face? In you? You'll be out on the street in disgrace. Oh, please, speak to the king. He'll let you marry me." But he would not listen. Being much stronger than she, he raped her. If you are just joining us, we are in 2 Samuel chapter 13, verse 14. If you're just joining us. No sooner had Amnon raped her than he hated her. An immense hatred. The hatred that he felt for her was greater than the love he'd had for her. "Get up," he said, "and get out." I'm going to pause here for a quick second. So the same person that Amnon had so much love for, the same person he was lusting after, After he got what he wanted, he threw her out on the side of the road like she was a piece of trash. And to me, and the Bible says that the kind of hatred he had for her was far more deeper than the kind of love that he had for her when he was obsessed with her. And she said to him, verse 16 now, "Oh no, brother," she said, "please, this is an even worse evil than what you just did to me." But he wouldn't listen to her. He called for his valet, "Get rid of this woman, get her out of my sight," and locked the door after her. The valet threw her out and locked the door behind her. She was wearing a long sleeve gown. That's how virgin princesses used to dress from early adolescence on. Tamar poured ashes on her head. Then she ripped the long sleeve gown, held her head in her hand, and walked away sobbing as she went. Verse 20 says, her brother Absalom said to her, Has your brother Amnon had his way with you? Now, my dear sister, let's keep it quiet, a family matter. I'm going to pause here parenthetically. For those of us who grew up in majority of us or who are on this live, I'm pretty sure, who grew up in a I don't want to say black household, but for those of us who grew up in the household where what happens here stays here, there's a lot of us who are suffering. And when I was reading this, it brought back, it kind of had me thinking. There's a lot of us who suffer from a lot of things from our childhood that we cannot speak on, because at the end of the day is what happens in this family stays in this family. And so going back to the Bible in second Samuel chapter 13, if you're just joining us, we're on 2 Samuel chapter 13, verse 20. We are talking about sexual abuse in the church. Hey, what up, Various? And we are looking at the story of Tamar and how it relates to today's problem. And then the Bible continues on to say, "Don't take this so hard." This is her brother talking. This is Absalom talking to Tamar, saying, "Don't take this so hard." Tamar lived in her brother Absalom's home, bitter and desolate. King David heard the whole story and was enraged, but he didn't discipline Amnon. David doted on him because he was his firstborn. Absalom quit speaking to Amnon, not a word, whether good or bad, because he hated him for violating his sister. Now, if I can pause here real quick, Absalom knew what happened. He didn't go to the king. He didn't take matters into his own hands. He told her, at least not just yet. He told her, let's keep it quiet. Let's keep it a family matter. What happens in this house stays in this house. Nobody else has to know. But the hurt that Tamar had gone through turned from pain into anger, into hatred, into bitterness, and it caused her to be very desolate. And then now you have Absalom, who decides now, because he sees the state that his sister is in, the pain of his sister is now getting to him. And so he hated his other brother. And so the Bible says, continuing in verse 23 of 2 Samuel chapter 13, 2 years went by. One day Absalom threw a sheep shearing party in Baal-Hazor in the vicinity of Ephraim and invited all the king's son. He also went to the king and invited him. Look, I'm throwing a sheep shearing party. Come and bring your servants. But the king said, no, son, not this time, and not the whole household. We'd just be a burden to you. Absalom pushed, but David wouldn't budge. But he did give him his blessing. Then, verse 26, Absalom said, well, if you won't come, at least let my brother Amnon come. And why, said the king, should he go with you? But Absalom was so insistent that he gave in and let Amnon and all the rest of the king's son go. Verse 28 says, Absalom prepared a banquet fit for a king. Then he instructed his servants, look sharp now. When Amnon is well into the sauce and feeling no pain, and I give you the order to strike Amnon, kill him and don't be afraid. I'm the one giving the command. Courage, you can do it. Verse 29 says, Absalom's servant did to Amnon exactly what their master ordered. All the king's son got out as fast as they could, jumped on their mules, and rode off. While they were still on the road, a rumor came to the king. Absalom just killed all the king's son. Not one is left. The king stood up, ripped his clothes to shreds, and threw himself on the floor. All his servants who were standing around at the time did the same. I'm gonna stop here, and I'm going to jump in and out. Um, I'm going to give you guys some statistics because I had to go do some deep research on sexual abuse. Um, so here are some statistics um, that I found. One of one in every four women and one in every six men will be sexually assaulted in their lifetime. And also, right? Uh, every 98 second, and this, if you really want to, I'll also be typing some of the websites that I went on to look at some of these stats. For example, rain.org. I'm going to type it in here if you want to find it for yourself. They did a survey, and it has a whole um, um, it has a whole page on sexual abuse. Every 98 seconds of every 98 second, a woman or a man is sexually abused. So within the past 98 seconds, someone was recently sexually abused. Women between the ages of 12 to 24 or at a high to 34, I'm sorry. Women between the ages 12 to 34 are at a highest risk years for rape and sexual assault. Um, those age 65 and older or 92% less likely to be sexually abused than a 12 to 24-year-old to be a victim. 83% are less likely to be a sexual assault victim than a 25 to 49-year-old sister. Yes, and oftentimes it is by family members. I'm coming to that, Geraldi. Um, so I told you guys about that. One of six women have been a victim of attempted or completed rape in their lifetime. As of 14.8% were completed and 2.8% were attempted. And out of those 14.8%, 7.2%, I believe, were in the church. All right. As of 1998, an estimated 17.7 million women between victims of attempted or were victims of attempted or attempt of completed rape. 82% of all juvenile victims are females. 90% of adult rape are females. And let me parenthetically pause here to say this. Guys, it's not that guys don't get raped, but it's rare that you find out that a man has been raped and has been open and is speaking about it openly. Um, women suffer more. And as a guy, I'm going to say this. It is I may not I don't know what it is like to for a woman to go through it. But as a man, it must be it is a very horrible thing to have the courage to speak on or to speak about. Women ages 18 to 24 who are college students are 3 times more likely to get raped in general, to experience sexual abuse or rape in general. And females of the same age who do not attend college are 4 times more likely to be victims of sexual abuse. Now, um, I went and I looked at the call. What could be the causes of sexual abuse? And there were, there's always in every situation there's always someone making an excuse for the abuser. There were people who were saying, um, these are the myths that I found. Oh, he just really wanted to have sex, or he misread her signals, or he got carried away. Um, Let me pause here and say this. No matter how bad or how um, sexually frustrated you are as a man, you should not be forcing yourself upon someone who does not want you. Um, do people throw mixed signals? Yes, but it's not a call for you. Mixed signals do not call for you to come for it to be ending in sexual assault. Recently there was a video on Facebook that was circling Facebook, of a young woman who gave a testimony, and I do have her name here. Um, oh God. Uh, Sophia Lawrence is her name. Sophia Lawrence was sexually assaulted by her mother's boyfriend at the age of 8. And she, got through it. She went through, the emotional pain, and she went through the physical pain, and she ended up gaining the courage to be able to speak about it in front of the church. She was giving a testimony of how God freed her from having anger towards this man. And her mother, who was sitting in the front of the audience, got up and was like, "The devil is a liar, the truth ain't in you." Her mother was pretty much trying to cover the truth. Um, Here are certain things that I'm going to say on this. When someone and my mother has taught me this, um, if someone did something to you, the first person you run to is me, meaning my mother. And so if someone did something to me, I would go to my mother about it. But as I got older, I'm learning to take care of the issue myself. But there are certain issues that I cannot take care of on my own. Excuse me. Um, Therefore, I had to look at, and I kept doing some digging. Um, Someone once said, and an unknown author says, "Justice delayed is justice denied." Um, because if you know someone was hurt, and someone had been through some pain, or have been victim of sexual assault, what you don't do is you don't brush it under the table, or you don't sweep it under the couch, because at the end of the day, that person came to you seeking for help. What we need to do as churchgoers and as believers is that we need to find an outlet. We need to find a source where this person, even if I don't have the answers to all of your questions, even if I don't know the right things to say to someone who's been sexually abused, I can try to point you the right way. And here are some things that I kind of noticed. And I found in in looking at this, I realized that women were being, like I said before, women were the main people that were being sexually abused. Um, and number one question that came in my mind was why, and I'm gonna type it, why are women? Oh, geez, I'm about to start a war about this. Why are women less valuable than men when it comes to the church? When it comes to anything that has to do with um, pain and abuse, why do we believe men over women? Why? And I know I'm probably gonna step out away from the subject for from this one. Why is it that we believe that men will be stronger leaders in certain places rather than the women that were created alongside of us? And I tried to find the very valuable answer to this, and someone that I spoke to said, and I'm gonna read it for you because I had to write it down. Someone I spoke to said, women are less valuable because women were the reason why sin got into this world. And I had to stop there, and I wanted to, and I'm sorry, I wanted to slap the person because at the end of the day, sin was going to come regardless. Um, and so therefore, when when the conversation ended, I kind of walked away angry and upset at myself because then I had to ask I had asked him that question. But question number one is, why are women less valuable than men? Section two, the next thing I noticed is that churches do not respond effectively to sexual harassment until we know the answer. Like we don't respond quick. I got you. Um, churches do not churches do not respond to that, to sexual assault. And I had to, in my digging, I found out that um ending sexual and domestic violence is not yet a core message of the church. I'm going to say it again. Ending sexual and domestic violence is not yet a core message of the church. Why do you say that, Fred? Because we are more likely, um, we are more likely to worry about how sister so and so came to church looking. We are more likely worried about how sister so and so's hair looked like. She came out of she was part of the Rastafarian club, and then she just decided to pop up in church. But the thing is, we have not um we have not taken the time to make domestic violence and sexual violence a priority, just like we prioritize the gospel. Don't get me wrong. The gospel is all worth it. The gospel is worth preaching. But what is the gospel if you're not touching all the basic parts of it? Jesus, when Jesus was on earth, Jesus was healing, not just teaching. He was also healing. He was giving people the opportunity to be healed, to find their place of peace, to find their place of healing. Nowadays, we are more concerned about preaching the gospel than making sure that people's soul are healed, like people are at peace with themselves. And one of the things that I found out is that a lot of the kids, a lot of the young adults, and by kids I mean young adults aging between 18 to 35, the reason why the majority of young adults are leaving churches, it's because two out of five two out of five young adults have been victim or have witnessed sexual harassment. And here's one thing that I notice as well is that we, um, people who are in power, who love to abuse their power, whenever they feel like they will be brought to justice, these people go, they're not going to believe you. It's going to be either me or you, and more likely they're going to believe me rather than they're going to believe you. And it should not be like that. And going back to making sexual and domestic violence a core message, um, 2 out of 3, that means 65% pastors speak once a year or less about the issue of sexual or domestic violence. Um, 22% say they speak about it once a year, meaning out of 12 months in a year, 365 days in a year, they speak about it once, to show you how valuable, how the church values, or how the church take a stand against sexual violence and domestic violence. Um, 22% say that they speak about it once a year. 33% of pastors speak about it rarely, and hear why. And 1 in 10% are silent. And the ones that speak about it rarely, they don't speak about it because in the research said this. Some pastors don't speak about it because, one, they don't want to lose members. Two, they don't want to offend the older group in the church. And excuse me. Three, not too many can relate to such thing in the church because not every one of them have gone through it. Let me put this out there. Just because everybody in the church have that experience, sexual violence or domestic violence, does not mean we should not address it. Um, I'm gonna pause here for a second and say this. I had a friend of mine who we are very close, and one day we went to college together, and we moved back when I moved back to Florida. A couple months later, I think later on the same year, for Christmas, when she came back home, she told me she was no longer going back to where we used to be. And while she was home for Christmas break, um, one of her elders, and I'm not gonna say no names, or I'm not gonna say any locations, specific locations. One of the elders in the church, his son was a youth director, and his son had sexually abused her. And she was like, "Oh, you did this? I'm going to speak to your father, and I'm going to bring it up to the church board." And his answer to her was, "Nobody's going to believe you." Fellas, we must protect our women. If we go back to question number 1, which says, why are women less valuable than men? If you go back to Genesis, and we're going to go back to the Bible because I believe the Bible has the answer to everything. We're going to go back to the Bible in Genesis chapter 2. If I'm not, yep. Genesis chapter 2 speaks on the fact that um, Adam being. So, Genesis chapter 2, God God gave Adam position. He gave him possession, and he gave him power in the Garden of Eden. But then God realized, listen, it's not good for man to be alone. So therefore, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put man to sleep. And as he slept, The Bible says in Genesis 2, verse 21 to 22, God put the man into a deep sleep, and as he slept, he removed one of his ribs and replaced it with flesh. God then used the rib that he had taken from the man to make woman and presented her to the man. Um, Speaking from what the Bible says, a woman is not less valuable than a man, because a woman was created out of the rib of a man, meaning a woman was born to be equal to her man. And if I'm wrong, please correct me. It is always refreshing to hear. Wearing longer skirt. I'm sorry. Thank you, Tiona. Um, One of the, sorry if I messed up your name. One of the things that I found out in the research is that wearing longer skirts do not stop people from raping, from going about the situation. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I found is that most perpetrators of sexual assault have access to consensual sex with someone other than the victim, meaning that person, majority of the people that are um how can I use this? What word can I use? What word can I use? Most of the sheep, most of the wolves in sheep clothing are people who are married and have access to sex at home. Because if because and I kept doing some more digging. It's not a result of mixed signals, because each and every sexual act requires active and willing consent for it not to be sexual assault. And these people have been kissing or flirting all night, does constitute to consent. So, in all honesty, there's no way, like, a woman being not dressing properly should not be a reason why she's getting raped. A woman not wearing long skirt should not be a reason why she's getting raped. And I'm sorry, but it's pretty much like, and I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. It's pretty much like saying that a man with muscles who wears a tight wife beater and walks outside during the summer, and let's say that man gets raped, and then, you know, someone goes, well, maybe he should have worn a sweater. Maybe he should have worn an actual shirt and not be showing off his biceps, not be showing off his abs. Clothes do not stop people from clothes do not stop a perpetrator from becoming a perpetrator. Meaning, whether the person is well dressed or not, it is not an excuse for it's not going to stop someone from sexually assaulting the other person. And if you look at it, in church, some of the reasons why we cannot deal with we have not dealt with it, it's because we don't know how to take the proper approach. Because, like I said, we like to sweep things under the table. And when it comes out, when it builds up for so long, when it finally comes out and it blows up, we're like, it's the and for those of you who are a part of a Caribbean church, you know, whenever something like that, whenever a topic like this comes up, or whenever an accusation is made, the first thing you hear is the devil got to them. Let me tell y'all something. We need to stop blaming the devil for the work that that some of us are sick enough to plan in our head and make it seem like the devil, it was the devil's work. Because the devil, and I overheard a preacher saying this, the devil is not omnipresent or omnipotent. He cannot be everywhere, he cannot do everything. So therefore, the devil is only limited to what he's allowed to do. And so in my research, one of the websites that one of the places that I found, there's this company called excuse me, Man Against Abuse Now. It's a study that was made by um by the Stanford University, and it's something that I would suggest everyone to look up and do some more in-depth research about, because they give such a deeper um, connection and such a deeper um, understanding as of to why some people, why it happens to some people, and why and how can we um, um, put an end to sexual assault. Um, One of the last things I'm going to share is there was a female pastor. Um, uh, there was a female pastor who was sexually abused under the leadership of by her senior pastor. She was a woman. She was a woman of God. She knew how to. She was preaching a good word. She was the first time she became a victim was at a young age of 16. She was abused by a by someone within her community who knew her, and that person, just held her at gunpoint and raped her. And then when she became a pastor, her senior pastor was making all of these moves, and he was pushing himself up on her, and which caused her to leave her church, caused her to walk away from the church. And then when I was doing this research, I found this. And the a person who wrote it is Amy or Buckney, and she said, if we believe that women are image bearers of God, why is the issue of sexual violence treated as a pink issue? Meaning, if we believe that women are, created by God, made through God for us, in mind, why do we treat sexual violence as something as a, I'm going to use the French word laissez-passer, or um, like my grandmother would say in Creole, vai que vai. Taku somebody ki va, son vai que vai, somebody ki vai que vai. It's like senior yenete. Like we don't really, it's nothing. They probably was joking. Um, Living in America, what I've learned is that sexual assault is not a joking matter. Um, do not put your hands on people that you one don't know, two you did not give you the consent to touch them, three that did not give you that you do not have a relationship with. Because what you do is when you force yourself upon someone, you create a bad picture for that person. Because in doing my research, it says that majority of teenagers who are the majority of teenagers who were sexually abused or were victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, these these teenagers, when they had the opportunity to go away for school, they don't come back. Why don't they come back? Because as long as that demonic figure, because the moment the person um, did what they did to you, that person becomes a demonic figure, and as long as that demonic figure is still in the church and is still holding a leadership position in the church, that person will not come back, because it's like going back to face your demons, a demon that you cannot fight, and that even if you fought against that demon, it's not a demon that you will win against. So once again, Some of the questions that we are focusing on in this discussion tonight is, why are women less valuable than men? And if we believe that women are image bearers of God, why do we treat the issue of sexual violence as a pig issue? Um, Also, one of the things that I found out, and I'm going to give you more statistics, so that you won't, stone me and be like, oh, he only gave us a few numbers and here and there. Um, um, Sexual assault, and I'm going to use this, sexual assault, and I'm sorry, sexual assault is not a crime of passion driven by a strong desire for sex. It is a violent crime driven by a desire of dominance. Um, so one of the things that I looked up when I was when I was doing this research about sexual assault is that the website that I looked into said that sexual assault is not a it's not a crime of passion by a strong desire for sex, but it is a violent crime driven by a desire for dominance. Meaning the person who is doing the assault, who is doing the violence, they want to do it because they want to feel powerful. They want to feel dominant. They want to feel like they feel like they have something to prove. Because at the end of the day, what I have back home is good, but what you got is better. And so therefore I want what you got. So the thing is, the devil made it happen, or that happened because something is an excuse. I'm sorry. I'm trying to read you all's comments. Please forgive me if you writing. Um, so yes, saying that the devil made him do it, or it happened because of something you did wrong. To go back on that, no one should be blamed. If you are a victim, no, let me say this correctly. No victim should be the blame of someone's stupidity for wanting to feel powerful. I don't know if that makes sense, but let me put it this way. No one should be the reason why. I should not be the victim of being victim why someone else who has a strong desire for feeling powerful, who feel like they want to make a statement, and so therefore they feel like the way for them to make their statement is by sexually assaulting me or someone that that I know. Speaking as a person and as a big brother, I have two younger sisters, not one, two little sisters. And for me, if ever one of my sisters was to tell me, so and so touched me the wrong way, I, I'm not saying that I'm going to be forgiving right away. I'm going to step up to it. I'm going to address this situation because at the end of the day, you should, we should not be okay with the fact that people in our churches are hurting, and we're taking it as, it's okay. It's okay. It's something that we should it's something that we should just sweep under the bed, under the rug, and leave it be. And so for us, um it's not okay. So one of the things that I found, um Amy Buckney, the woman who stated the question, why is the issue of sexual violence treated as a pink issue? There are seven practical ways she gives that the church can respond to the issue of sexual assault. Is You got to think critically about humor. Number one. Number two, you have to pay serious attention to the women's report of sexism. Um, when I remember when we first moved to America, my grandmother told me, son, if anything happens, the first person that the judge or a police officer will listen to, it won't be you, it'll be the woman that said you did it. And I said, oh, okay. Um, so it was like, don't think that don't take a woman's word and just like sweep it under the rug. Because if she said it, they're gonna take her word for it. Um, because if in the judicial system, they'll believe a woman first. Why is it different in our church? Also, uh, so sorry, one second. I'm looking for something that. So, there are some myths about the rape criteria. Once again, I'm going to tag to post the website here. It's wev.stanford at edu slash group slash NAAN. So if you need these statistics, you can find them for yourself. Um, it's that okay? So here are some myths about rape criteria. And for those of you who cannot deal with this, I'm sorry. It is not rape unless some myths give us false criteria of rape, right? Some they give us false criteria for defining rape or sexual assault. For example, she didn't even struggle or fight back, so she must have wanted it. No, majority of the time, a woman cannot fight back because one, a man is naturally stronger than she is. So therefore, fighting a big guy off of you is not going to be easy for a woman. And please, I'm like once again, fellas, if you want to get mad at me, that's up to you. That's not my problem. Um, and then the second one is all that she needed was to give him a firm no. Saying no sometimes doesn't work because if the person has had been marking you as their victim, more likely you will one way or another one day that person you will become that person's, like if they've been preying on you, the one day one way or another you'll become their victim. While fighting back and screaming no do indicate rape, a rape can have occurred even when these things don't happen. In situations where a person is being violated or victimized, it is a normal physical reaction for people to freeze up in fear. Also, the responsibility is on the party who is advancing the sexual assault to get consent. And if they do not get that consent, including situations where someone doesn't explicitly say no or fight back, they are guilty of sexual and or rape. Please give me 1 second, guys. I have to get some napkin for my face. Oh, my nose. Okay, I'm back, guys. Sorry. So yes, there was a lot of work that was put into that. And so one of the things too is that, guys, certain places there are certain things that we need to understand that saying no sometimes is yes, it's you can say no, yes, you can do this and that and the third, but the thing is, what is saying no gonna do? Um, I know people who were victims of sexual assault, and these people, excuse me, these people, oh, I fought, I tried to fight him back. I'm sorry, it was all my fault. That person should not have felt like they were in the wrong. Because the thing is, that person did not do anything to do that. Now, this website also give this website also give a what men can do to help. Sorry, what men can do to help end violence against women. Um, we can be aware. We can. Words are very powerful. Even especially when spoken by people with power or over others. For example, um, we live in a society where that's what I was trying to say. We live in a society where words like um, words are often used to put women down. For example, um, there's not a music video that is not there's not a rap video that is not on TV now where they're not calling a woman a freak, a whore, a dog, or something like that. Such language like that sends a message that females are less than fully human. Um, when we see women as inferior, it becomes easier to treat them with less respect or disregard their rights and ignore their well-being. Um, one thing that I can say about that is that sometimes we tend to and I know many people who said that and they go, oh yeah, she's just a bee. I'm not trying to be rude or cuss on the live stream because I have a lot of friends who watch these things. Um, Back in my days growing up, it the norm in some rap videos where you saw women being degraded. Um, you saw women being put down. She was being called a whore. She was being called this, that. Anything that is anytime you call a woman out of her name, you degrade her. Like you literally put her down. Anytime you call a woman out of her name. Um, what one of the things that men can do that to end violence against women is that we need to not fund sexism. Recently, the state of Alabama proved to 45 that we do not stand for sexist, or we don't stand for a sexist, a rapist person, and we don't want that kind of person in power. Because if you look at it, there were multiple women coming, you know, out, and I'm not gonna say whether it was true or not, because those women knew what happened between him and them. But the thing is, we don't need to be funding sexism as in, oh, if he said he didn't do it, he didn't do it. No, your boys will not tell you, yeah, yo, I did this or I did that. I was in the wrong. I was in the wrong. Because majority of the time, we don't get that confession until like years later on down the line, maybe. And even if it's years later on down the line, we should be accountable. We should hold each other accountable for the fact that we are doing them wrong. Another way that we can also um, end violence against women is that we have to speak up. You may never see a man abusing his partner, or you may never witness a rape in person, but you will see and hear attitudes and behaviors that degrade a woman. Once again, um, earlier, I think it was yesterday or the day prior, I went to the store and I was um, purchasing something, and there was a guy and a lady, and they were bickering, I would say, and um, the security guard of the store stepped in because their bickering started getting very loud across the store, and so it was kind of disturbing. And when the security guard stepped up to him and said, "Hey, man, what's going on?" and he goes, "Oh, that heifer over there, oh, that dirty girl, that dirty child, that dirty woman over there, that scumbag over there." Like, he called her everything but her name. And the security guard goes, "Wait a minute, I'm sorry, but you cannot speak about a woman in this establishment in this manner." Now, when they got outside, he proceeded to keep calling her names. And so, therefore, what the security guard did, it was that the security guard stopped her from getting in the car with him. The security guard said, "I would rather you go home with someone else than to ride home with him. Because if he can talk to you like this in public, Lord knows what he's going to do when you get back home." So we need to speak up, because you may never see it happen in person, but there are signs, there are bruises, and there are words that can give it away that someone is being abused. Um, don't engage in any forms of. I had to write these down. Don't engage of any forms of sexual harassment, such as wolf whistling, catcalling, unwanted touching, or outrageous or inappropriate behavior. Women are not public property available for our intrusions, neither are men. Growing up, like I said, I grew up in the Caribbeans. Um, and I used to hear these guys, "Oh, if Sherry come here, let me talk to you, baby." Or they go, wait. And old and when I moved to America, I noticed it was going on. It was a continuous pattern, because there were older men that were looking at younger girls around the ages of 16, 17, 18, and were going, ooh wee, boy, if I was her age. And I even had a young older gentleman who told me, "Bro, if I was your age, that young lady that I'm friend with, I would have been had my way with her." But the thing is, if we learn, like I wrote it down, women are not property, or not public property. They are not available for our intrusion. And it's both ways. Some of you are probably like, "Oh, how come you're not talking about men being raped?" Because the ratio for women and men being raped, women get raped more than men, because 1 out of 6 women get raped. 17.7 million women, as of 1998, 17.7 million women have been raped. And the thing is, I thought it was just like, oh yeah, it's something that happens in within the year. No, it does not happen within the year. It happens within, like, at least every 3 months. 17.7 million every 3 months. 17.77 million women get, or victims happen to become victims of rape. And so one other things that we can do while speaking up is that we need to develop an awareness of the cultural support for violence against women. In church, brothers, protect our women. When growing up, I was always told never be found in a room alone with a young lady, because if you're found in a room alone with a young woman, your mind is gonna go crazy and you're gonna want to do things that you're not even supposed to be doing. Some people are commenting and I can't see that. Um, I can't. If you're commenting and I can't, and I'm not responding to your comments, it's because I can't see what you're writing. Um, but like I said, don't ever put yourself in a predicament where you're found alone with a woman. Yes, 17. Yes, yes, Damien. 17.7. Don't ever. Sorry, 17.7 million. Yes. Um, I think another issue why. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. The idea that we must also address is that because we overemphasize sexual abuse as as a thing that women are victims of, men are as a result reluctant to speak up if they are victims in fear of being labeled as weak, gay, and soft. Not only women get abused, men do too. Yes, like I said, men do get abused too, but it's one every in like the research says, one in every four male gets to, hold on, not this one. I think it's in this paper. Yep. Yeah. So one in every four male gets raped, um, or victims of rape. Um, and also, I think another issue is why some victims don't speak up is because they are often groomed by the abuser for a long time before the assault occurred. Yes, you're right. The story of the woman pastor, Amy or Buckney, I believe her name is Amy Buckney. I did write her name. Yes, Amy Buckney. She was not an SDA pastor. So for those of you who are like, oh, who's Amy Buckney? She's not an SDA pastor. She was a woman pastor who was sexually abused by her senior pastor. And when she brought the whole thing to her board, her church board, they didn't believe her. And when I was reading her story, she said one of the things that one of the guys in the church board asked her, "What can we do to make this go away? What can we do to silence this? Because if the church finds out about this, the church will be outraged and they're gonna turn against you." Um, and then, when I kept reading her story, she mentioned about how that the pastor chose to plead guilty because he wanted the church board, not so in the Seventh Day Adventist church we have what we call the general conference. So the general conference of that church, um, when they were investigating it, he told them, yes, I did it. But when he went back to his buddy who was standing up for him and saying that he never did it, he told his buddy, I only pled guilty because I wanted to get them off my back. I only did it because I wanted her to shut up. I wanted her to stop talking about it. Now she ended up moving away from the church. She went to a whole different congregation, but that doesn't stop the fact that the pastor was, the senior pastor. And the thing is, she became the associate pastor, but she also took the leadership of the youth leader. She was also working with the youth leader, um, and there was a youth advisory board where it was made up of volunteers, and those volunteers were married people. And one of the gentlemen that was on that volunteer board would say something like, oh, maybe we should have one of these meetings at my house, in a hot tub, naked. If this is a church thing, um, if this is a church thing, why do we need to speak? Why do we need to bring it to a sexual level? Why must it become a sexual thing? Like, it's not. We should not allow ourselves to look upon other people in such manner, because the Bible says we should not commit adultery. Sexual assault is a form of adultery. If I may bring it back to your attention, give me 1 second. Um, Sexual assault is a form of adultery. Please forgive me. I am a bit under the weather. So, yes, sexual assault is a form of adultery. One of the things also that I found was that if a brother, a friend, or a classmate or teammate is abusing his female partner, I would speak up. When I was in college, I went to 2 colleges. When I was in college, I remember one of our schools. Yes, 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 and I agree with you, Hanif. Hanif said men need to stop creating a culture that puts sexual conquest on a pedestal. We do, because at the end of the day, sexual assault is not a joke. There are people. Recently, the doctor who the Olympics doctor who the Olympics doctor who recently got received lifetime. Um, he's doing life for raping young girls. Life. Meanwhile, he had a whole wife at home. He had kids that were about the same age as these young girls that he was raping. But he found pleasure in raping these little girls. He found pleasure in pleasing himself. And then he was okay, and he would go back and tell his buddies about it. So, um, point number one, we need to be aware. Point number two, we need to speak up. And point number three, talk with women about how violence against women and fear of violence against women affects their daily lives. Um, often churches don't feel comfortable talking about sexual abuse because they don't even feel comfortable about sex. People get uncomfortable that my wife and I are actually open, that we frequently have sex with each other. And yes, people will get uncomfortable because at the end of the day, people believe that sex should be something that is very sacred. Sex should be something that is discussed in the home. But um I follow this guy named Pastor Michael Todd, and Pastor Mike says sex is good, but the reason why a lot of young adults and a lot of people are having sex outside of marriage or doing it out of consent is because they don't speak about it in church. We don't address these kind of issues. We don't address sexual abuse. If we do not speak on sexual abuse in church, how are we going to be effective in our community? How are we going to help the young mother in the community who who was raped, and then out of that rape came a child? How are we going to be able to talk to some young girl who was raped, but then out of that rape almost came suicide, but then it was someone that she knew, or that a friend that someone that she's friends with, that talked her out of her suicide. And the thing is, we make it, we make it like a thing, like a nonchalant thing. Um, you know, we need to we make it like something that it's not true. Brush it off. Let's leave it over there. My mom never allows us to just brush it off. No. You're gonna come in. We're gonna talk about this, and we're gonna find a solution. And so, um, I've got some solutions that we need that we can use effectively in church. Um, Going back to Pastor Amy Buckner list of things that we can do is that we should not make excuses for men's sexist behavior, which excuse me, which I mentioned before in my other list. We should not make an excuse for other people. I don't care how close I am to you, but the moment that I find out that you raped somebody, I'm going I'm going to tell somebody about it. I'm not, because I should not make an excuse for something that you know that is wrong. Because if I'm making an excuse for it, then it lets everybody else around me know that I'm okay with this. I support this. The only reason why 45 wanted Judge Roy Moore on the bench is because he agreed with what Judge Moore used to do. He is also a person that did what Judge Moore did to people, to these women. So therefore, if I'm going if I'm going to call myself your friend, if I'm going to call myself your brother, I should be able to call you out of your mess. Not just be like, oh, hey bro, how we doing? No, I'm gonna call you out of your mess. There are some things that you're doing that I need to call you out on. Let's see what some other people says. Da, da, da. So, okay, and one other thing is that one of the things that I noticed is that I found out when I was doing my research is that the research I found was that the research I've looked up many places and stuff. So if I say one of the things that I found, please forgive me if I can't recall exactly where I found it or okay. Sorry, I'm trying to charge my phone to my laptop, but it's not working. I don't know why. There you go. Um, okay, I thought someone said something. Thing is, we don't make it possible for our church for kids to be vulnerable. For we don't um we don't make it we are not vulnerable enough with our children. Um, because when we are very vulnerable with our young adults, it makes it possible for them um, to actually to speak up and to ask questions. At any given time, if you guys really want to come in and chime in and say something, just send me a request and I'll bring you on as a guest. I've said it before. I don't know if you guys are not talking to me tonight. I don't know what's wrong. Um, no, I'm not Juliet, and uh, I'm not anyone else. I'm just doing what I was asked to do, and God had put this. Had literally prepared me for this. Um, we need to actually. Hey, Lawrence. We're talking. So, for those of you that are just joining us, we are talking about sexual abuse in the church. We are talking about how some of the questions that I've asked were, or as this. Um, why are women less valuable than men when it comes to church, when it comes to church stuff, and also why, if we believe that women are image bearers of God, why is the issue of sexual assault treated as a pink issue? Is oh, okay. Oh, these are people just joining in. Okay, so if you want to come in and say something, I'm more willing to chime in with you because you guys are making it seem like a lecture. I don't want it to be like that. So I'm gonna give us some more things on how we can end violence against women. Um, in speaking up, we need to also, no, in talking with women, we need to also understand that becoming an ally to the woman in your life, do not participate in sexist behavior by objectifying or stereotyping a woman. Believe people when they tell you they've been raped or abused. Support what they say about it. Don't ask about their behavior, what they were wearing, etc. Listen to them. Somebody made a comment about that, about wearing long skirts. When someone is abused, our focus should not be on what were they wearing at the time of the rape or of the assault. What where were they of the time at the time of the assault? What we need to know is how can we help? How can we get that person to um, some help. First thing, do you remember what the person looked like? Second thing, where did this person go after they did it? Where how did you get here? Can let me call the authorities. There are so many ways that we can help other people without bashing that person and making that person feel like it was all your fault. Without pointing the fingers. We should not make it a thing where we are um, bashing other people for them being a victim of something that they did not intend to be the victim of. Also, approach gender violence. No, sorry. Recognize that women neither ask for nor deserve to be raped or abused ever. Um, in in a video that was recently on Facebook again, there was a young girl who was talking about how her biological father, who was an elder in the church, who was a ministry leader in the church, had raped her, her cousins, and her brothers. Although she had begged him not to rape anyone else in the family because he had already started with her, he still did it. And you know, she when she decided to speak up about it, someone told her, "Oh, Hanif, I'm probably gonna invite you to speak." Um, so someone told her, "Oh, it was all your fault, or all your fault," and you probably the reason why he left, and da 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 da. And now look at you, you're suffering, and so on and so forth. Now, if if we are if we're not speaking on these things, we need to understand that these people, if something happens to somebody, our first thing should not be, oh, where were you? Why did you let it happen? How come you let it happen? Our first thing is to provide them a safe haven, to become their safe haven. For example, one of the things that Pastor Buckner said is we need to take concrete steps to immediately stop all form of sexism. Meaning, if we gotta have a forum on sexual abuse, a rap session on abuse, and stuff like that, and how it is in the church, how does it affect our churches, then we need to do just that. Because the more we keep brushing it under the rug, the harder it becomes. Why can't I see how to? One second. I'm trying to invite Annie to come in. Okay. Um, Kaki. Hey. Um. So, invest in the healing of the victim. We need to invest time. We need not just our time, but we need to make sure that this person is was taken care of, is being taken care of. They're being taken to even if we have to drive them to and from a therapy session. If we have to be able to, if we have to create a chain where we can make sure that this person or this woman, this doesn't happen to any other woman in our church, or any young woman in our church. We need to make sure that these people feel the safety. It's not like, oh, we'll take care of it, we'll take care of it, and then you don't take care of it. Because at the end of the day, that's someone. What up, Lens? That is someone that is being. You're pretty much allowing. You're creating the way. You're paving the way for someone else to do the same thing to another person. Justice, when justice is delayed, it becomes justice denied. If we do not put an end um to sexual abuse in the church, we will see less young adults in the church. We will see more um um su- suicides happening within our young adults. And not, it's not because I want to see it happen, but we need to become, what up, Asel? Um, we need to become the group of people that God has asked us to be, and that is to help others, to shed light on what others um what others cannot see. Because at the end of the day, I believe that we need to become the group of people that brings light to something that is needed to be brought, that needs to be brought to the light. Um, you guys are more than welcome to join in. Please join in. Like, really. I feel like I'm giving a lecture to y'all, and then you guys are just watching. So therefore, it's kind of like, um, so we have to understand, women do not ask to be raped. They didn't go looking to be raped. It's not like, I've never known a woman who woke up and go, maybe I want to be raped today. And it may sound weird, but the thing is, one out of six women in the world gets raped. 17.7 million. I'm gonna give y'all the stats one more time. So 1 out of 6 women in the church gets raped. One out of 6 women in the world gets raped. 17.7 million women have been victims, or of attempted or completed rape. 14.8% have been victims of completed rape. 2.8% have been victims of attempted rape. 92% women of the age 65 and older are less likely to be a victim of rape than a woman that is between the age of 12 to 34. This is me speaking as a big brother. If ever someone steps to my sisters and touch them the wrong way, I'm not saying that I'm going to be very forgiving, but you will feel my wrath. You will understand that I'm not, my sisters are not there for you to be pleasing yourself with. Before we need to understand that what we are doing. Um, while we are talking to while we are talking with women, we need to also have a talk with the guys. Guys, we need to talk about how violence against women, we need to talk about how it feels to be seen as a potential abuser, and whether they know someone who's been abused, and learn about how relationship abuse touches the lives of men and what we can do to stop it. Um, it's not just women who get abused. Like I said before, men do get abused. We need to understand, how do we as men approach this? How do we, how do we make this an awareness? How do we stop it? How do we put an end to it? One, not only do we need to talk to our young ladies, but we also need to talk to our young men. We need to talk to our young men, because society is teaching these young men, if you want it, go get it. If you like it, go get it. 45 sat on national TV, and I'll never forget it. And he says, grab them by the pom pom. Like, fam, it's a no-no. It's unacceptable. We do not accept women being abused. We do not consent. We do not rock with the whole women being abused thing. And I really don't think that we should, because, it's my boy. We need, you did it. It's okay. We're going to keep it under. What happens here stays here. No, it does not. It does not. Because if it happens here, it does not stay here. Because if I can't help you, I need you to know how to make it better. I need you to know how to make it different, how to stop it, how to help somebody else who's been through it, how to make this person feel safe. How do we make someone feel safe in our church? How do we make the young women in our church feel safe? How will the young women in our church know that if ever there was someone? I remember growing up, we used to do this big brother, big sister thing. Nowadays, we barely look at other people or that are younger than us, or have people that are older than us look at us and go, "Oh, hey guys, sexual abuse mostly happens in women. Men who have been sexually abused can also be reluctant to speak up and seek healing because of the concern to be branded as weak or gay." And yes, you right. You right. Damien. It's men need to understand too. When you step up, a woman, you create the way for a woman to, like, openly speak about what you they've been through and how they've been hurt and how hard it was for them to open up. Yes, I've been through this. I understand. I know what it's like. But the thing is, the moment we make it, this. Oh Jesus, sorry. The moment we make it like, oh, I've never been through this. I don't know what you're talking about. There are men in our church. I'm gonna put it like this: there are men in our church that, when the moment we learn to put everything first, the moment we are able to speak what is going on here. Sorry. Um, there are some men in our church that the moment we speak up, we pave the way for someone else who's been hurt, someone else who's been abused, someone else who's been assaulted by anyone in our church, by anyone. And the thing is, it happens mainly by people of power, those who know that they have the power to do whatever they want. Because at the end of the day, if I can do it and get away with it, and there's nothing you can do about it. And so, it's not men. I encourage you all to actually, if you know a rape victim, or if you've been a victim of sexual assault, speak up. Because if anything, it ends with us. Hashtag it ends with me. Hashtags it ends with us. Because on the line, we should not have another hashtag me too. Because if we can stop it right here, then we can definitely create the way for healing for some others. When I was at Oakwood, there was a gentleman who came during the AY, and he was speaking on how his father was selling him for sex, and his father was okay with it. His father didn't care because he was being abused by other people, and his father was okay with it. And when he finally gained his breakthrough, it was hard for him to understand how to touch his wife the proper way. And when he was able to speak out, when he was able to tell his story, because now he's able to travel around the country and tell his story about how he was, sold as a sex slave, and how he was sexually abused, it creates the way for some guys. And I remember that faithful AY, that Friday night, it created the way for some guys who've been sexually molested to be vulnerable. Guys, nothing more pulls social there's the social conditioning of toxic masculine, even in the church, has a role to play in this. I think it does. Social conditioning. So there's this. So for asking, does the social conditioning of toxic masculine, even in the church, has a role to play in this? Yes, it does, because it's like you're shunning. You're looking down upon it, and people are like, oh, I can't be myself, I can't be this because of so on and so forth, because of this and that, because of here and there. But the thing is, if we were to address these issues, it would no longer be an issue. I guess pretty much that's what I'm saying. My computer is acting all kinds of mess today. If you would like to jump in, I am more than likely and more than happy to welcome you in. Just send me an invitation and see where it's allowing me to call. But if you'd like to jump in, say your piece, and let's keep the conversation going. The floor is open. The floor has been open. We will end soon. I don't know anyone that has something to say. So in the meantime, if no one wants to, no one wants to jump in, I'm gonna keep giving some pointers on how we can end sexual, or draw these back. How we can end sexual abuse against women. So while we talk in talking with men, we need to mentor and teach these young boys about how to be men in ways that don't involve degrading or abusing um, um, girls and women. Volunteer to work with gender violence prevention programs, including anti-sexist men's program. We have to lead by example. I remember I was talking to somebody and he said, if I don't treat proper way, the son that I'm raising later, the son that I'm raising will not know how to treat later on. And that kind of stuck with me. So if we're not being leaders by example, we are literally keeping a pattern going. Also, approach gender violence as a men's issue involving men of all ages and racial and ethnic backgrounds. View not only as perpetrators or possible offenders, but as empowered bystanders, who can confront abusive peers. We can do something about it. Not instead of just sit there and just, oh, I'm not gonna say anything because if I say anything, then know that I was a part of it. No. When I used to work at the airport, their slogan is, and even now where I work at, if you see something, say something. You know, in this case, if you know something, say something. Because you can save someone's life. You can actually help someone get better or find help in that sense. We can help people. What up, Alex? We can help people become better in their times instead of struggle. In their time of struggle, sorry, not instead of struggle. Jesus Christ. Anyone else? Anyone wants? Okay. Now the last, I had to speak to a therapist about this, and then they said this to me. In order for men to help any abuse against women, we need to also confront ourselves. So you have to confront yourself. In other words, you have to have the confidence to confront your own actions, belief in opinions, have the strength to look inside and admit your own faults, and to commit to changing the way you think and act. I remember when I used to, in my confront myself, and when I heard that, I kind of went back and I looked and I was like, yo, I used to be just like the old guys on my block. You know, we used to sit there and just, I used to for guys and I'd be like, ooh, wait, look at that shorty over there. And, you know, it used to be very, I didn't see it back then, but looking back at it, it was very disgusting of me to do. Because you have to see it for yourself. And you know, some guys would sit there and go, oh, you know, it's not a problem. I don't see a problem when when a woman does it to me. Yes, you don't see it as a problem, but it's terrible. It's not something that we should be okay with. It's something that should bother us, as a matter of fact. And so have the strength to look inside and admit your own faults. Become educated and engage. Attend training sessions, read books and articles, and join groups. Learn the myths and realities of violence against women and understand how our society condones it. Um, we live in a society where they don't, like, literally, like I said earlier, they don't believe it happened, if especially when it's someone who's in power. For example, Roy, like I'm gonna keep using Roy. They didn't want to believe that Roy Moore abused all these women. They didn't want to think. They didn't want to believe that, you know, Roy Moore, given that he is a Christian, or because he's a Christian, he would never do such a thing. You know, it's more. It's him. I mean, look at him. He's a Christian man. He's a very, he's very outgoing. He's very loving, and he loves his peers. But that doesn't stop him from being a perpetrator. That doesn't stop him from being the wolf that is seeking to devour the person that he was looking for at the time being. So that's one of the things that we could do. Be aware of sexual stereotypes and how they influence attitudes and behaviors. Social roles and exceptions may affect a man's decision about relationships. Men taught that expressing feelings is not masculine. So for those of you who are asking that, men are taught expressing feelings is not masculine. Examining your social role and learning ways to express feelings directly and non-violently can help you to create deeper and more meaningful interpersonal relationships. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't. Like I said earlier, men the more vulnerable you are, the easier it makes it for a woman to be as vulnerable for you. I I learned that from a pastor. Can't remember his name exactly, but we were having a series, a communication on a communication or relationship, and he says that when a woman sees a man being vulnerable, nothing more attracts that woman to be vulnerable. So in other words, if you're going to do something, and if you're going to talk about something, if you see something going on, you're not going to talk about it. A woman is more likely not going to talk about it. So fellas, we need to understand that it's leading the pack to do that, to help put an end to it. It starts with us and it ends with us. So because it started with men, it has to end with us. Because in going back to 2 Samuel chapter 13, um after Absalom um had killed his brother, Absalom ran away from David. But the thing is, the reason Absalom the reason why Absalom killed his brother is because he knew what his brother did wrong, and he couldn't bear holding that secret anymore for his brother. So you have to hold yourself accountable. You have to be able to call out someone else in their wrong when they've done wrong. Another point four in control yourself. You don't have sex with anyone against their will. Don't push yourself upon against anybody if they don't push yourself against anybody. Period. Not even if they say no. Even if they don't say no, I mean, sorry. Don't push yourself against anybody. Wait your time. Wait your turn. What God has for you is for you. At the end of the day, it's not up to you to choose, oh man, I really want something right now. I'm gonna rape me somebody. No. Sexual assault is something that is very deep, and it's brushed under the table because we don't know how to address it. If we don't if when we're being hired for example, when I was being trained for my job that I do now, they talked about, there was like a whole segment on sexual assault or in sexual abuse. And it was like, dude, okay, I get it. I get it. Don't touch anybody. Don't push anybody. Don't push up on anybody against their own will. But I realized what they were doing is they were trying to prepare. They were preparing me to not do something that I'm going to regret later on. If we do the proper training for sexual abuse, and the thing is, we're scared to bring in people from the outside into the church to teach us about things that we don't know. It's like we want to be expert at everything, but we don't want to be students to anything. Like, when are we gonna learn to stop being the expert and stop being the student? Like, sometimes you gotta learn. Sometimes the master has to be a student. We cannot have the answers to everything, but you know what we can do? We can learn to help other people cope. We can learn to help other people get through. We can learn to help other people break the cycle. So, any question? Anyone would like to come in and chat and jump in and give their opinion? Okay, so here are some. I'm going to review these points again. What men can do to end the violence against women, especially young women. Um, it's one, we can be aware. Um, we can be aware, be very aware. Words are very powerful. Remember that especially when speaking to people with power over others. Two, we have to speak up because others don't. We can be the voice for other people. Three, we need to also remember to have a talk with our women, have a talk with four, have a talk with our men, and five, we need to learn to control ourselves. And I'm going to give you the 7 practical ways that Pastor Dr. Amy Buckney, the practical ways that she gives, or as follow. Um, it's to think critically about humor, pay serious attention to women's report of sexism, don't make excuses for men's sexist behavior, take concrete steps to immediately stop all forms of sexism, invest in the healing of victims, implement a zero tolerance policy for sexual harassment abuse or violence, and last but not least, do not underestimate that rehab requires professional assistance and it takes a long time. Rehab is for anybody by everybody. But what rehab can help anybody go through the next level, which is the healing process and the fixing and the clearing them of their mind. So we need to understand that one, we need to think critically about humors. Two, pay serious attention to women's report of sexism. Three, don't make excuses for men's sexist behaviors. Four, take concrete steps to immediately stop all forms of sexism. And five, invest in the healing of victims. Six, implement a zero tolerance policy for sexual harassment. Seven, don't underestimate that rehab requires professional assistance and takes time. Anybody and everybody can help. So I hope you guys gained something from tonight's topic, and I hope that we can be able to bring it to an end for everyone. So before I go, given that none of you are jumping on and we're not interacting as much tonight, I'm going to end the broadcast early, and I'm going to go to bed because I have a major migraine, and this is very this topic is something that we all would have chipped in, but thank you for those who kind of commented and were in and out and did their parts to help bring awareness to the situation. So we're gonna pray, and then I'm gonna let you guys go. Um, Father God, we thank you for the ability. We thank you for the opportunity to be able to come together in your presence. We thank you for being able to come and speak about what you want us to do, how you want us to lead it, how you want us to go about certain things in our churches. We ask that you please continue to be with us as we go through the night, and allow us to help to grow and to continue to be light bearers for you Please, we ask that you please be a comfort for those who've been sexually assaulted. We ask that you please continue to keep your loving arms around them and allow them to know that there is peace in the midst of the storm, even when it seems like you're quiet. So, God, we ask that you please continue to give us the strength that we need. Help us to grow better in you and with you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Good night, guys. See you all next Friday.